I'm Luca Giliberti, contributing writer for Gold Derby, and I'm joined today by Chris Perfetti, who plays Jacob Hill on Abbott Elementary. And Chris, you've talked about how working at the fast pace that network TV demands from a series regular was very challenging for you at the very beginning because you're someone that tends to work a bit more slowly. So would you say that that process has become any easier throughout the years as you've become a bit more used to it? And would you say there may be even some benefits from working at a faster pace?
Um, First of all, hi. I'm slightly bummed that you didn't give my Italian last name the same love that yours got. Uh,
Uh-oh,
but hey, maybe next time.
maybe next time.
Um, I would say a bit slower is not how I like to work, but a lot bit slower is how I like to work. And
Mhm.
and and in terms of like how that's changed, yeah, I feel like I'm having a completely different experience now than I was before. Yeah, I was, and at times still am sort of plagued by the permanence of TV and film. It's like
Mhm.
it's hard to go to sleep sometimes knowing that that's how it's going to be forever. And what I love so much about working on a play is that you always get to do it again the next night, and the work becomes about how you make that real for yourself. And you spend a month figuring out all the different ways that it could go. And in TV and film, that's just not the case. That said, there is a beautiful sort of cathartic experience about being able to let go of it and being open to the possibility that whatever is coming through you at that moment, especially if you have an ensemble like mine that you trust implicitly and that are
Mhm.
really inspired by, yeah, there's a flow that just kind of takes over. So yes, I'm feeling better, but do I wish we had more time? Always. It's one of the things that I admire so much about Quinta is that
Mhm.
um, her brain just works in this beautiful way where
Mhm.
she has a shorthand and like an express lane towards what she finds funny. And so, when we're making the show, we're making one episode a week.
Right.
And in that week, the script for the most part has like stayed intact, but the jokes that we, leave there on the set of Abbott Elementary are plentiful. It's like
Mhm.
fast and furious process to kind of get to uh where we're all going. So, yeah.
And that's interesting that you mentioned that because I talked to your co-star Tyler James Williams last week, and he actually said that he believes comedy thrives when it's a bit more chaotic, when it's a bit messier, when you do have to rely a bit more on your, own instincts, on your impulse. So, is that something that you agree with? Would you say that this process, also this faster pace, has kind of lent itself to the comedy that you have to deliver?
I think that's right. I think that's beautifully put. I mean, to be fair, our scripts come very well baked. I
Hmm.
we have
Hmm.
our most of our writers have been with us from the first season, and so there are now like 10 authorities on this world,
Right.
on
Hmm.
Abbott, on Jacob. And so there's not a lot that needs to be tinkered with when we get the script. But yeah, I think that dance that Tyler is talking about can produce incredible results.
Hmm.
And and if you want to capture something on camera that is real and that actually happened, you have to kind of knock people off balance. And so, um, yeah, and I don't think we would be able to do that if we didn't have the camera operators
Hmm.
with us that we've had from the beginning who can just kind of feel where we want to go and are
Right.
able to capture it. Usually you'd have to write that stuff down, but there is a real beautiful kind of symbiotic ballet that is happening between them and us now that we can kind of guess where the other person is going to go. And I feel that way about my actors as well. So,
Yeah, I love that you mentioned all that. And to get into the show to talk about Jacob, something that I've really liked about the show is that it has really allowed Jacob to lean into his corniness, to lean into his awkwardness. It's part of the appeal of the character, right? But those traits also lead to him being, taunted by, the people around him, which makes for excellent comedy. But what we see, especially this season, is that he does seem to harbor a desire to be a bit more respected by his colleagues and by his students. Yeah, by his colleagues and by his students. So, how do you think he deals with kind of being the butt of the joke all the time? Do you think he's just able to swallow it each time, or do you think there are actual instances in which it does get to him a tiny bit at least?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the beauties of this character is that, like, yes, that may be inherent that like Jacob is always putting his foot in his mouth or like being the butt of a
Mm,
joke, but it depends on what that joke is and who's making it and whether one was made 5 minutes ago. All of those things inform like how he responds to that. And a lot of those things are just fun to find in the moment. And it's really based off of what the you can kind of tell, like when you have the
mhm,
script for one episode here as opposed to here, you can say like this is what this moment might be. Um, and I felt like particularly this year we were really kind of adamant about showing um, Jacob win a little bit,
yeah,
and I think it's very important to this genre to show people as three-dimensional and not cartoon
absolutely.
characters. You know, if you just kind of do the same joke over and over again, I think you insult your audience a little bit and you lose their trust. And so yeah, again, it's a sitcom and we're not going to like make these people do a 180 overnight, but
Yeah,
it's interesting, I feel like, and just real to show
yes.
all facets of people and to show Jacob uh not lose all the time and get what he wants and be challenged in different ways. And so yeah, I feel like that was a real priority of this season. Really for every character.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I kind of love the moment in the third episode when he tells Ava, maybe if you didn't make jokes at my expense, maybe my students would respect me a bit more. I think, that's one of those lines where you might not necessarily know that's not a lot of people may not necessarily pay attention to that line right away. But if you think about it, it just says so much about him and also the respect that he just wants. And I think it's important, like you said, to make these characters three-dimensional, to not just have them be the butt of the joke. So I really love that aspect, especially this season, as you said, where we do get to see him win a bit more. And
Totally.
um, and I think that also kind of takes us to his relationship with Gregory, because especially when Janine is at the school district, I feel like that's the person that Jacob really finds companionship in, or the companionship that he longs for. And I feel like a lot has been said about what Jacob is able to, or the qualities that Jacob is able to bring out in Gregory. That's when we see Gregory be a bit more vulnerable, when he puts his walls down a bit more. But what qualities do you believe Gregory is able to pull, or is able to bring out in Jacob?
I think honestly, there's a real kind of overlap between what that is for Jacob and what that is for Chris, the actor. I find being in a scene with Tyler to just be incredibly grounding. It's like a new color of that thing that I feel with every person in this cast, which is like a trust and a safety. And Tyler, I know, wants to go where I want to go, and vice versa. Um, and I think our writers have taken a big swing and really afforded us an opportunity to have long scenes together, long two-person
Yes.
scenes. That's not really normal, I feel like, for sitcom or really for our show. And so it's just been a real gift. I think Tyler is like such an incredible actor, and
Mhm.
I find, as you alluded to earlier, like the sensation of being on set is often mildly torturous to me, and I find being with Tyler so grounding and
Mhm.
so gratifying, um and at the same time that this friendship is sort of like budding, I feel like Tyler and I's is as well. And so
Mhm.
um yeah, I feel like it's also really afforded Jacob an opportunity to dream, like he's to
Mhm.
tap into like his heart. And
Mhm.
I know Jacob is you know, from the get-go been a very sort of like lofty character who like thinks he can change the world, but there's something about this relationship between his two good friends that I feel like he's like fighting for love, and that's
Mhm.
you know, probably a lot of the reason why he broke up with his boyfriend this season and stuff. So um it's yeah, it's just a really good feeling.
I love that you mentioned, his boyfriend Zach, because, you know, he tries to get Zach to break up with him at first by provoking him and says, that it's his plan that ultimately worked. But I would say that it's actually that Gregory is kind of the person who gives him permission to ultimately rip off the Band-Aid at the end, because I feel like Jacob needs to hear someone say, it's okay to break up. It's the right decision to make in this case. So do you think he would have broken up with Zach as soon as he did, if not for Gregory being as upfront about his feelings regarding the relationship?
No, I mean, the brilliant conceit of this show is that you have seven extremely different people who have polar opposite, you know, qualities about them. And
Mm,
so any combination of them is going to pressure one of them to do the other thing or make the other person insane or make the other person fall in love with them. And Quinta really took care of a lot of the work from the pilot by just
right.
saying that these are seven extremely different people, and any combination of them is hopefully going to advance them forward and hope, you know, make you laugh in the process. But yeah, I don't think Jacob would have. I think it would have been 4 or 5 years of that before anything changed. So
Yeah, absolutely. Jacob also kind of admits that he's just resigned himself to this inevitable trajectory of his relationship with Zach that basically ends with him being stuck in this unhappy marriage and then him just dying, which is kind of an alarming thing to hear from him, to say the least. And we know that he really struggles to leave Zach. So do you think he has invented this trajectory to keep himself moored to Zach, or do you think he actually believes that this is what a normal relationship looks like?
I think I was playing that it's a bit of both. I think like
Mm,
Jacob uses um tragedy and drama to connect with people. And so I feel like that was sort of a call for love on his part toward his friend. But yeah, I think the other thing that I've tried to set up with Jacob is that he is kind of like one of those when you blow a dandelion and everything is like he is so easily taken by the wind. And so there's a part
mhm,
of him that I'm sure believed that and he can kind of like change on a dime and that is obviously a good thing and a bad thing.
for
um
sure.
so yeah, I think it's both.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see where his storyline goes from here. We've gotten a little hint of where it might go, but I can't wait to see the end of season three. And yeah, thank you so much for taking the time today, Chris. It was great to talk to you, and congratulations on season three of Abbott. And we're looking forward to season four.
Thanks, Luca, appreciate that.